Today, I'm diving deep into the history books to uncover what really started WW2, and I challenge myself to find the facts that completely contradict what we've all been taught.
1930.
3 months before Hitler invaded Poland, a secret meeting took place in a remote forest that would seal the fate of millions and make World War II inevitable. But this meeting has been carefully erased from most history books. What was discussed in those dark woods was so shocking that both sides spent decades trying to hide it. And when you learn what really happened, you will understand why the war was never really about what they taught you in school. The world believes that World War II began on September 1st, 1939, when German tanks rolled into Poland, but the true beginning happened much earlier, in a series of secret negotiations that powerful nations never wanted you to know about. While newspapers filled their pages with Hitler's speeches and the world watched the dictator's rise with growing fear, behind closed doors something far more sinister was taking shape, a conspiracy that involved not just Germany, but also the Soviet Union, and even whispers of involvement from Western powers who publicly condemned fascism. In August of 1939, Nazi Foreign Minister Joachim von Ribbentrop arrived in Moscow on a secret flight that was not announced to the world until after he had already landed. The meeting that followed between him and Soviet Foreign Minister Vyacheslav Molotov shocked even the translators in the room, because these two nations, sworn ideological enemies who had spent years preparing their people to hate each other, were about to become partners in the greatest crime of the 20th century. What they signed that night was not just a non-aggression pact, as the official story claims, but a detailed plan to carve up Eastern Europe between them like butchers dividing a carcass. The secret protocol attached to the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact contained the real agreement, the part that both nations denied existed for 50 years. Hitler and Stalin had made a deal. Germany would take Western Poland, and the Soviet Union would take Eastern Poland, the Baltic states, and parts of Romania. They were not preventing war, they were planning it together, coordinating exactly how they would destroy Poland and split the spoils. When the world asked how these two bitter enemies could suddenly become allies, both governments lied and said it was simply about peace, but the truth was they had already drawn the maps showing how they would divide their victims. But here is the part that will disturb you even more. Western intelligence agencies knew about this secret protocol almost immediately. Decoded intercepted communications revealed the truth to British and French officials within days, yet they said nothing publicly. They allowed Hitler to proceed with the invasion, knowing that Stalin was his partner, because some historians believe they wanted Germany and Russia to destroy each other in a war that would leave Western Europe as the only remaining power. The Polish people were betrayed not just by their invaders, but by their supposed allies who had promised to protect them, but had already calculated that Poland was an acceptable sacrifice. On September 1st, 1939, the world watched in horror as Hitler's forces stormed across the Polish border. But what most people do not know is that the Soviet Union was supposed to invade from the east on the same day. Stalin delayed for over 2 weeks, waiting to see if Britain and France would actually declare war on Germany, or if they would simply allow Hitler to take Poland without real opposition. Only when it became clear that the Western powers would not launch an immediate attack did Stalin finally send the Red Army crashing into eastern Poland on September 17th, stabbing the Polish defenders in the back while they were already fighting desperately against the Nazi invasion. The coordination between Nazi Germany and Soviet Russia during the invasion of Poland was so efficient it seemed they had practiced it, because they had. German and Soviet officers met in occupied Polish towns to congratulate each other, held joint military parades, and handed over refugees who had fled from one invader straight into the hands of the other. Jewish refugees who escaped the Nazis by fleeing east were captured by Soviet forces and sent back to German territory, and Polish resistance fighters captured by the Soviets were often executed immediately or sent to gulags in Siberia, where most would die. The two totalitarian powers worked together like partners, and for nearly 2 years they supplied each other with resources, with Soviet grain and oil fueling Hitler's war machine. The secret protocol of the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact remained one of the Soviet Union's most protected lies for half a century. Even after World War II ended, the Soviets insisted the protocol never existed, calling it Nazi propaganda, and anyone who mentioned it in the Soviet Union risked imprisonment. It was only in 1989, 50 years after the pact was signed, that Mikhail Gorbachev finally admitted the truth and allowed the secret documents to be published. By then, the official history of World War II had been written, and most people never learned that the war began not with one dictator's aggression, but with two dictators working together in a criminal conspiracy. What happened to Poland in 1939 reveals the darkest truth about World War II. It was not a simple story of good versus evil, but a complex web of betrayals where major powers sacrificed smaller nations for strategic advantage. The Polish people fought heroically against overwhelming odds, abandoned by their allies and attacked from both sides by enemies who had secretly agreed to erase their nation from the map. Over 6 million Polish citizens would die during the war, nearly 20% of the entire population, and their suffering began with a secret deal made in a Moscow palace that the world was never supposed to know about. The Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact and its secret protocols changed everything we think we know about how World War II began. It proves that Stalin was not forced into an alliance with Hitler out of desperation. He actively chose to partner with the Nazis to expand Soviet territory, and that partnership made the invasion of Poland possible, which made the entire war possible. The comfortable story we tell ourselves, that World War II was a righteous crusade against evil from the very beginning, falls apart when you discover that one of the eventual Allied powers started the war as a Hitler's willing accomplice, and that Western powers knew about it and calculated that millions of deaths were an acceptable price for their geopolitical interests. Follow us for more videos that dive deep into the forgotten histories and buried secrets of World War II, the dark truths about how the war really started, the betrayals and conspiracies that shaped the deadliest conflict in human history. There are dozens of stories like this one, moments that have been erased or rewritten because the truth was too uncomfortable for the winners to admit, and we are committed to bringing these hidden chapters back into the light. If this forgotten story shocked you and made you question what else you were never told about World War II, smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss another investigation into the buried secrets of history. Drop a comment telling us what other hidden stories of WW2 you want us to expose. Share this video with anyone who thinks they know the real history of the war, and join our community of truth seekers who refuse to accept the sanitized versions of history that powerful nations want us to believe.